The town called him a monster, so why did the quiet widow pay silver to take him home? The wagon waited like a gallows in the open street, one man standing on its boards and chains. "Step up if you've got coin," the auctioneer yelled above the wind. The crowd shuffled closer, boots grinding gravel. The man on display, Eli Creed, didn't move. Iron cut his wrists raw, but his back stayed straight. The banker, Lyle Morton, lounged beneath his awning, cigar ember bright against the gloom. "Monster," someone muttered. Morton smiled. The word served him well. A sheet of rain showed on the horizon, dark as bruised iron. The caller's voice cracked. "No takers? Last chance, cheap at any price." A pause. Then a woman's voice, clear, steady, too quiet to be safe. "I'll take him." Heads turned. She stood at the edge of the platform, coat flapping, silver coins in her palm. Mara Grady, widow, shopkeeper, alone too long. Morton's grin faltered. "You sure, ma'am? He's killed before." She met his eyes. "So have your kind, with paper and ink." The gavel struck. Sold rain began to fall, slow and hard. The deputy unhooked Eli's collar from the post. He climbed down, shackles ringing, and for the first time met her gaze. No words, only the sound of iron and water. She turned. "You can walk or be dragged." They crossed the muddy street together, she upright against the wind, he behind her like a shadow, still deciding if it's real. At the livery corner, boys jeered. One spat. Eli kept walking. When a bottle shattered near her feet, he shifted half a step forward, instinct before thought. The plains opened beyond the last house. Dust ran with rain, tracks filling behind them. She didn't look back. "Why?" he asked at last. His voice was hoarse from disuse. "Because someone had to," she said. Lightning split the ridge ahead, white over yellow grass. They reached the creek at twilight, water running thick and red from clay. She crossed on stones slick with moss. He followed, slipping once, chain-scraping rock. Her hand shot out, firm grip, brief, human. Then she let go. Her cabin waited beyond the trees, lamplight flickering through rain. Smoke curled thin from a crooked chimney. She pushed the door open, stood aside. "You'll wash first," she said. "Then work." He hesitated at the threshold. A memory flashed, another doorway, a woman shouting, fire behind her, the snap of rope. He blinked it away and stepped inside. Wood smoke, bread, damp wool. She lit another lamp. Shadows moved over the scar on his jaw. For the first time in years, he wasn't being watched to see if he'd break something. Outside, thunder rolled farther off. The storm began to breathe out. She poured water into a basin, slid it toward him. "Name?" "Eli." "Mara." No more was said. He washed the blood from his wrists, the tin basin trembling on the table. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyes fixed somewhere past him. When he glanced up, she was still looking, but not at the chains. Rain thinned to mist. The cabin filled with the sound of dripping eaves and slow shared breathing. Somewhere deep in him, a question stirred, one he didn't dare voice. She turned down the lamp. "Tomorrow we start early." Darkness settled, soft as mercy not yet earned. The morning came pale and cold. Mist clung to the grass, the kind that swallowed sound. Eli woke before the rooster, habit, not rest. His wrists burned where the iron had bitten. Outside, the world smelled of wet earth and wood smoke. He stepped from the barn and found Mara already there, sleeves rolled, splitting kindling beside the porch. She swung the axe clean, wood snapping like bone. "Coffee's on," she said. He nodded once, moved toward the pump. Water hissed against tin as he filled the bucket. The chain on his wrist scraped when he lifted it, an echo of the auction yard, and he flinched at the sound. She noticed, said nothing. Inside, the cabin was dim but orderly. Bread cooled on the table. 2 mugs waited. The quiet between them wasn't peace. It was something tighter, stretched and waiting to break. She poured coffee. "You worked for the Whitlock freight line once," she said, more statement than question. He paused. "Used to. They say the freight line burned." He didn't answer. Wind rattled the window latch. She turned to check it, and he caught sight of a scar climbing the back of her hand. Thin, white, deliberate. It looked old, like something someone made her remember. She ladled stew from a small pot. He ate without looking up. The spoon shook once when a horse neighed outside. Hooves on the road, distant but closing. "Expecting anyone?" he asked. "Never am," she said. They waited. The sound faded east. Only the wind stayed. After breakfast, he fixed the stove vent, hammered loose boards. She hauled water, patched fabric at the table. Work filled the space that words couldn't. Near midday, she came to the door, wiping her hands on her skirt. "You're strong for a man who hasn't eaten right." He didn't look up. "You don't buy weak men." That drew a ghost of a sound from her, half breath, half laugh. Then silence again. By afternoon, the light turned thin and yellow. Dust drifted in from the open plain, settling like memory. Eli stacked the last of the wood. When he turned, she was watching him from the porch, eyes narrowed against the sun. "What was it they said you did?" she asked. He wiped sweat from his brow. "Enough to hang me, not enough to prove it." She studied him for a long beat. "The banker said you killed a deputy." He shrugged. "Bankers say what they're paid to." Wind carried the smell of horses again, closer this time. Mara moved toward the edge of the porch, scanning the road. A wagon rolled slow through the mist, a man at the reins. She recognized him before the wind carried his voice. Morton's hand. He didn't stop. Just looked once, long and cold, before driving past. "Guess word's out," Eli said quietly. She turned. Word was never in. Night came early. Clouds blotted the stars. She lit the lamp, flame low and steady. He sat by the door, sharpening a dull knife he found in the drawer. "You planning to run?" she asked. He looked up. "You planning to stop me?" Her eyes didn't move. "I bought you. Figure I should keep what's mine." He met her stare, unreadable. Outside, thunder rolled beyond the ridge, soft now but moving closer. She blew out the lamp. The dark settled between them, heavy with what neither would say. Through the window, lightning flashed once, long enough to show the wanted poster tacked crooked on the livery door across the road. Rain smeared the ink, but two words still held. Eli Creed. Inside the cabin. The silence stretched thin as glass. Somewhere under the thunder, she whispered to herself, "They'll come again." And from the shadows, his voice, steady, resigned, answered, "Let them." The rain began. The lamp flame flickered back to life, just enough to show her face. Calm, watchful, not afraid. The storm hadn't reached them yet, but it was close enough to hear breathing. The town smelled of dust and whiskey. Midday sun bleached the street until the ground itself seemed to hum. Eli followed a half-step behind Mara as she walked through the silence, spine straight, shawl pulled tight. Her boots left small prints, between wagon ruts, marks that would vanish with the next gust. They needed flour, kerosene, nails, nothing more. But every door they passed told them something different. Shutters closing, whispers starting, faces turning to glass. The sign above Morton's bank creaked in the wind. "Keep your head down," Mara said. He did, but his shadow fell long across the boardwalk and the men at the saloon saw it. Morton waited inside the mercantile, hat clean, smile cleaner. He leaned against the counter like a man greeting a guest at his own gallows. "Afternoon, Mrs. Grady." Mara stacked her coin on the wood. "Flour, lamp oil, 2 sacks of feed." "Certainly." His eyes drifted past her to Eli. "Bringing your investment to town, I see." Eli said nothing. His jaw flexed once, the muscle jumping like a pulse. Morton nodded toward the wanted poster tacked near the door. "They say he's worth 200, dead or alive." Mara didn't look. "I paid full price already." A few men laughed from the corner, ranch hands who worked Morton's land, the kind who liked to test what silence would bear. "Funny," one said, tilting his hat back. "Didn't know you could buy killers with house money." Mara's eyes lifted. "Didn't know you could talk without a brain." The laughter broke into coughs. Morton's grin thinned. "Careful, ma'am. Respect keeps a body safe around here." "So does truth," she said, voice low. The clerk's hands shook as he tied off the flour sack. Outside, the wind rose, sliding grit under the door. When she turned to leave, one of the men stepped in front of her. "You sure you're safe living with him?" Eli's hand twitched. She met the man's stare. "Safer than with you." A bottle rolled off a shelf. Glass shattered. The sound cracked the room open. Eli moved. 1 step, maybe 2. His chains had been cut days ago, but the rhythm of them was still in his body, fast, controlled. He caught the man's wrist before the next word could form. Eyes met, breath held, then he let go. The silence after was worse than the noise. Morton smoothed his vest. Seems the lady's pet still has teeth. Shame if the law has to muzzle him. Mara's hand brushed the counter. When she spoke, her voice was even. Then the law should start at your door. She gathered her supplies, walked out. Eli followed. The street burned white in the sun. Wind carried the faint sound of a hammer from the blacksmith's yard. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. At the wagon she stopped, gripping the side rail. You shouldn't have touched him. He set the flour down. Didn't. You wanted to. Would have been easy. That's what scares them. He looked at her then, really looked. At the dirt streak on her cheek, the tremor in her hand she thought she hid. And you? He asked. She didn't answer. They climbed onto the wagon. The horses started slow. Dust rose behind them, blurring the town. Halfway down the ridge road, something caught the wind. Paper, torn, tumbling. The wanted poster, its edges curling, landed against the wagon wheel. Eli reached for it, but Mara was faster. She read the name, the crime, the date. Below the deputy's name, she saw a second one. Morton's, signed in neat ink. Witness to the charge. Her breath caught. Eli saw her face change. You believe it now? She folded the paper. I believe we've got company coming. Thunder rolled far off, echoing through dry hills. Neither spoke again until home. That night, she tacked the poster inside the cupboard door, behind the coffee tin, a place she'd see it every morning and remember. Outside, the wind tore through the cottonwoods. Inside, the lamp burned low, steady between them. One flickering flame refusing to die. The next morning broke sharp and blue, the kind of light that cut through sleep and truth alike. Frost glazed the pump handle. Eli worked it loose, filled a bucket, and carried it to the porch. The sound of water sloshing was the only thing alive. Inside, Mara moved quiet, deliberate. She folded a shirt that wasn't hers, mended a rip in her sleeve. Her eyes kept flicking to the window, to the road that led from town. They'll come, she said. Eli set the bucket down. Maybe. Maybe's just waiting in disguise. He looked at her, just a glance, but it was enough. The set of her shoulders said she hadn't slept. By noon the wind picked up again, carrying grit and the low growl of thunder hiding behind the hills. He worked through it, stacking logs, fixing hinges, anything that made sense. She watched from the doorway, her face unreadable, hand brushing the pistol holster she never wore before. You think I lied, he said finally. I think you didn't tell it all. He stopped. The hammer in his hand went still. The weight of silence hung heavy, thicker than the storm building above them. The man they said I killed, he said, wasn't Law. He was Morton's gun. Sheriff signed the paper after. Her throat moved, a swallow she tried to hide. Why didn't you say it sooner? Didn't think you'd believe me. I still don't know if I do. A gust slammed the door against the wall. Rain began to spit, thin and cold. Mara crossed the porch, handed him his coat. Inside, she said. Lightning flared. The sky cracked open. The storm came fast, heavy sheets hammering the roof. Inside, shadows leapt along the walls. He stood by the window, watching water carve new lines through the dirt. She stood by the table, hand pressed to the folded wanted poster. They'll ride out, he said. I know. And you'll let them take me? She looked up. If I wanted that, I wouldn't have bought you. Thunder shook the panes. A knock came, a single deliberate thud. Mara froze. Eli reached for the rifle, leaning by the door. The knock came again, louder this time. Rain ran in sheets down the glass, warping the figure outside into a shadow. She opened the door before he could stop her. Sheriff Lang stood there, hat dripping, coat dark with rain. 2 deputies behind him, rifles slung but ready. His eyes looked tired, not cruel. Need to talk, he said. Mara stepped aside. Eli didn't move. The sheriff laid a folded paper on the table. Morton's ledger turned up. East Trail robbery. His men took the freight. Deputy died trying to stop him. You were framed, Creed. Eli didn't reach for the paper. He just stared at it like it might vanish. The sheriff nodded once. Morton's gathering what's left of his riders. He won't run. He'll burn. Wind shoved against the door again, hard enough to make the lamp flicker. When they were gone, Mara closed the door and leaned against it. Her breath shook, but her voice didn't. So now they'll come for both of us. He holstered the rifle. Then we meet them halfway. The rain softened to a whisper. Lightning flared one last time, lighting her face, his, the empty room between them. He saw something in her eyes then, fierce, quiet, steady as the light itself. "Don't die for me," she said. He shook his head. Wasn't planning to die. Outside, the clouds broke open just enough for one streak of sun to find the cabin door. It caught on the ring of iron lying forgotten on the porch, glowing like something finally set free. She watched it, then him. "Tomorrow," she said. "We finish this." He nodded once. The wind moved through the trees, softer now, like breath returning after a long-held silence. Morning came pale and raw. The storm burned out but not gone. The air smelled of ash and wet pine. Smoke drifted low over the ridge like breath refusing to leave. Eli stepped outside first, boots sinking into mud that glistened under the newborn light. The sky held that washed clean stillness that follows ruin. Behind him, the cabin door creaked open. Mara stood framed in its light, hair loose, face unreadable. The pistol hung at her side. Her eyes moved over the yard, fallen fence, torn earth, the ghost of boot prints leading toward town. "They rode before dawn," he said. "I know." He checked the rifle, ran a thumb along the empty chamber. "We can still catch him," she shook her head. "We don't chase ghosts." Wind slid through the cottonwoods. The world felt hollowed out. A hawk circled far above, silent. He started toward the barn, then stopped. "I remember the first man I killed," he said quietly. "Didn't sleep for 3 nights. Now I can't remember his face." She stepped down from the porch, mud sucking at her boots. That's what men like Morton count on. They moved through the broken gate together. The road shimmered with puddles, each one holding a piece of sky. He saw his reflection and almost didn't know it, lines deeper, eyes clearer somehow. Down the trail, the sound of hooves drifted. One rider only, the sheriff. His coat was torn, hat gone. He swung off his horse slow, like a man who'd seen too much night. "It's done," Lang said. "Morton's dead. Shot himself when the papers came out. The town's talking. Some folks owe you both an apology." Mara's face didn't change. "Words don't fix fences." "No," Lang said, looking at Eli. "But they start somewhere." He left them the horse and rode on without it. The sound of hooves faded into the distance, swallowed by wind. They stood a long while after. Then Mara spoke. "You could leave now. No one would follow." He looked toward the horizon. The road curved through light and dust, endless. "I could. But you won't," he smiled faintly. "No." They worked the rest of the morning in silence. He set new posts. She scrubbed the blood from the porch boards. When the sun climbed high, she brought him water. Their hands brushed. Neither pulled away. Inside, she hung his old shackles on a nail beside the door, metal dulled, harmless now. "A reminder," she said. "Of what?" "That chain's rust." Afternoon drifted soft and slow. She fixed bread thick and rough, and he mended the stove. When he lit the fire, it caught easy this time. The crackle filled the space where words would have failed. Toward evening, a breeze pushed through the open window. Dust motes danced in the light. Mara leaned against the sill, watching the horizon blush gold. "Think they'll ever stop talking?" she asked. "They always do. Then they find someone new to hate. Until then?" He shrugged. "We keep living." Outside, the sky turned honey-colored. Birds settled in the cottonwoods. The air smelled of rain, remembered but gone. She poured 2 cups of coffee, set one beside him. For a while, they just listened. The stove ticking, the wind moving through leaves, the hush of something ending without being lost. He lifted the cup, hands still rough, and nodded once. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For seeing." Her eyes softened. The last light caught her hair, turning it to copper. Beyond the porch, the land stretched wide and forgiving. The chain ring glowed faintly where it hung, catching the dusk like a small sun. Mara closed the door against the wind, and the lamp inside flickered once, then steadied, two shadows leaning close in the quiet that follows a storm.